Hi, my name is Damon. I'm 41 years old, and I used to think my life belonged in one of those solid and settled commercials. Safe job, cozy house, and a wife who laughed at my dumb puns. If you've ever woken up one day and realized the picture in your head no longer matches the one on your living room wall, stick around. And while you're here, drop a quick note below. Where are you watching from, and have you ever sensed that quiet shift in someone you love before the real storm rolled in? Most mornings in our suburb of Dalton, sunlight pours over the Crestview ridgeline, hits the kitchen window, and lands on my coffee mug. Routine. Comforting. I'd pour 2 cups, one black for me, one with a dash of oat milk for Jessa, then shuffle through the mail while she hummed her favorite indie playlist and fed the stray cat that strutted onto our deck like it paid the mortgage. 12 years of marriage had settled into a dance so familiar I could have written the steps in my sleep. Civil engineering spreadsheets by day, weekend hikes up Crescent Peak, a modest vacation every fall, and enough inside jokes to fill a sitcom season. So when the first crack appeared, it was almost invisible. Jessa started coming home late, networking mixers at her marketing agency, she said, dropping her heels at the door like anvils and slinking into bed smelling of floral perfume mixed with something woodsy and masculine. On the third late night in a month, I lay there, eyes fixed on the slow spin of the ceiling fan, counting each revolution like data points in a problem I didn't yet know how to solve. Quick pause. Ever ignored your gut because you wanted the facts to be wrong? Let me know if you've been there. I'm betting I'm not alone. By sunrise, my engineer brain was cataloging clues. I noticed a new styled shag haircut, a bolder lipstick, and a different laughter in her voice, sharper, almost defiant. She'd toss out terms like finding myself or rewilding after scrolling social feeds on personal transformation. None of it felt sinister at first, people grow, but the speed made my stomach wobble like a suspension bridge in high winds. The earthquake moment came on a Thursday evening. Jessa glided into the kitchen wearing a loose cardigan that slipped just enough to reveal swollen red skin along her collarbone. 4 words curved across it in fresh black ink. Free spirit. I blurted, "Whoa, since when do needles not scare you?" I wasn't judging, just stunned. She used to pass out at flu shots. She traced the letters like a prized trophy. "Sometimes you have to shock the system to feel alive, Damon." That line hung between us, thicker than the steam rising from the pasta I'd overcooked waiting for her. I tried humor. "Well, consider me shocked. Did it at least come with a tetanus shot?" She rolled her eyes the way people do when a joke lands in the wrong decade. Side note for you watching. Tattoos, new wardrobes, secret phone habits, are they red flags or just midlife upgrades? Chime in. The conversation spiraled. My practical question, how much did it cost, registered to her like an insult. She fired back, "Why is everything about money with you? Not everything fits in a spreadsheet." But here's the thing, money wasn't the point. Respect was, partnership was. We built safety nets together, rainy day fund, future kids' college fund, even if fertility treatments hadn't worked. A plan to renovate the deck next spring. Suddenly, those nets felt like cobwebs she wanted to tear through. That night I couldn't sleep, so I sat in the glow of the fridge light drinking yesterday's cold brew, replaying her words. Shock the system. My career revolves around stress testing bridges. I know the difference between a hairline fracture and a catastrophic crack. Something inside Jessa had snapped, and pretending otherwise felt like inviting a collapse. Friday, I did what every marriage podcast warns against. I peeked in her purse. Buried beneath lipstick and half a protein bar was a receipt, $230 at Chroma Bistro, a downtown place we'd never splurged on. 2 entrees, 2 glasses of top-shelf bourbon. Same night she claimed to be at a girls' trivia night. Evidence. Cold, printed, unarguable. My palms went slick. Lesson number 1, and I wish someone had drilled it into my skull earlier. Secrets grow in the dark. The longer you leave them there, the more expensive the cleanup. Saturday, my best friend Miles dropped by to watch the Dalton Dragons game. He took one look at me and hit mute on the TV. "Man, you've got demolition eyes. Spill." I did, sparing no detail, the perfume, the tattoo, the receipt. Miles listened, jaw clenched. "My cousin's wife pulled the same stunt," he said. "Started with ink, ended with a CrossFit fling and a second mortgage he didn't know about. You need to protect the base, bro." Protect the base, engineering speak translated into friendship. In that moment I realized love hadn't blinded me, it had lulled me. I'd assumed our joint account, our shared calendar, even the walls of our house were self-healing structures. They weren't. Without maintenance, they rot. Sunday morning arrived quiet and crisp, golden leaves tumbling across the lawn. I brewed coffee for one. Habit wouldn't let me skip hers, so I poured a second mug anyway, let it sit untouched like a placeholder for the woman who used to join me. Hours later, when Jessa finally stumbled in wearing a glittery dress and carrying her heels, she spotted the cold mug, scoffed, and muttered, "Stop hovering, Damon." Hovering, I was given front row seats to my marriage unraveling and asked to applaud. Instead, I did something new. I set a boundary. I'm not hovering. I'm here in the home we share, expecting honesty. She disappeared upstairs, water pounded in the shower, and I took a trembling breath. My reflection in the microwave door looked older than 41, grief lines etched across my forehead, but I also saw a flicker of steel. That afternoon, curiosity got reckless. While she napped, I opened our banking app. Withdrawals peppered the timeline like bullet holes: boutique hotels, upscale lounges, luxury clothing stores. I scrolled back 2 months, 3-6. The total drained my face of color, nearly $30,000. Meanwhile, her personal credit card balances ballooned, minimum payments funneling straight from our marital pot. I should have confronted her then, but a strange calm settled over me, the kind you feel when the math is undeniable. The bridge is cracked. Shouting at the girders won't fix it. You need a plan, calculations, reinforced beams. And maybe, if I'm being honest with you, and please tell me in the comments if you felt this, some part of me hoped she'd wake up on her own, see the red ink and hit the brakes. Hope is funny that way. Sometimes it's resilience, sometimes denial wearing a fake mustache. Late Sunday night, Jessa padded into the hallway wearing my college sweatshirt, her face scrubbed free of makeup. For a heartbeat, she looked like the woman I married, the one who once sang off-key road trip duets with me all the way to the Cascadia coast. "Can we talk tomorrow?" she whispered. "In the morning," I nodded, trying to keep my voice from cracking. But morning came, and she was gone before sunrise, leaving only a sticky note on the fridge. "Super early client meeting, love you." Love you. 2 tiny words suddenly weighed a ton. Did they mean anything, or were they filler like take care in a business email? I stood there staring at that note, feeling something inside me pivot. This wasn't a glitch. This was the new operating system she'd installed without my consent. Here's a reflective pause for anyone still watching. When does protecting a relationship morph into protecting yourself from it? Feel free to weigh in below. Thursday evening, Jessa breezed through the door with high-energy chatter about an upcoming leadership retreat in Arrowhead Lodge, 3 nights, all expenses paid. The way she avoided eye contact turned my suspicion into certainty. My mouth went dry, but I smiled, asked questions, took mental screenshots of every vague answer. Data collection mode. That night, while she snored softly beside me, I stared at the ceiling and replayed the week. The receipts, the tattoo, the late-night phone silences. In every engineering failure report, there's a sentence that chills me. The warning signs were present but unaddressed. I refuse to let that be the epitaph of my marriage. Lesson number 2. Silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just postponed disorder. In the dim glow of my phone, I opened a blank note and typed 2 words, "Plan begins." Then listed every step I'd need if things kept sliding. Separate account, legal consult, asset inventory. I wasn't certain I'd pull the trigger, but writing it felt like slipping a parachute on before a flight whose pilot was suddenly drunk. Now you might wonder, Damon, why not confront her right then, demand the truth? Trust me, I asked myself the same. Maybe it was fear of hearing her confirm what I already knew. Maybe it was strategy, catch me in spreadsheets and I'll build a fortress you can't breach. Or maybe, deep down, I wanted to give her one last window to come clean, proof I'd tried everything before reaching for the detonator. The window stayed closed. Saturday arrived with crisp mountain air, the sky a blue so sharp it felt like starting over. Jessa left early to shop for retreat essentials, and I watched her taillights disappear down Maple Drive. Alone, I paced the length of the house, our house, touching picture frames, the worn spot on the sofa where she'd curl up to read, the dent in the hallway baseboard from moving day. Good memories, all of them, but memories can't pay interest on betrayal. Before sunset, I was at Miles's place, football game forgotten. "I think it's time I run the numbers," I said. He didn't ask what I meant. He just fetched 2 beers and a yellow legal pad. We sketched out time lines, expenses, potential fallout. I felt cold, methodical, yet strangely alive, muscles tightening around a core of purpose I'd forgotten I possessed. The man Jessa called boring and predictable was building a chessboard she couldn't see. Driving home under orange streetlights, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. The fear was still there, but something louder now. Resolve. A line from my favorite professor floated back. Bridges don't fail overnight. They erode quietly until one decisive moment. Maybe relationships are the same. Mine was nearing that decisive moment, and whether it crumbled or stood would depend on what I did next. As I pulled into the driveway, the porch light flicked on, but the house behind it no longer felt like a sanctuary. It felt like a structure in need of emergency shoring. I killed the engine, sat in the silence, and breathed. If you've ever stood on the edge of a life-changing decision, like really balanced on the ledge, what tipped you forward? Share below. I read every story and they help more people than you know. Inside, the scent of her new sandalwood candle lingered, sweet and heavy. I picked up the sticky note from the fridge. Love you. Folded it once, then again, slid it into my wallet, not as comfort, but as evidence. Evidence that at 41 I'd finally learned the grim truth. Love without honesty is just wishful thinking wearing good cologne. And somewhere in the stillness between heartbeats, I accepted a fact as sturdy as steel. If Jessa truly wanted to live as a free spirit, then it was only fair, only engineering-level fair, that I remove every safety rail she'd come to lean on. The countdown, though silent, had officially begun. The next week slid by like slow-motion footage of a train wreck. You can see the cars tilting, hear the metal scream, but you're powerless to look away. Every morning I brewed 2 mugs out of habit, and every evening I dumped one down the sink untouched. On Tuesday, I texted Jessa mid-afternoon, "Need anything for dinner?" And she replied with a laughing gif of someone twirling champagne. No words, just bubbles. That gif said more than a paragraph. She was already feasting at someone else's table. A small part of me still clung to denial. Maybe the late-night charges were work expenses gone rogue. Maybe the mystery Range Rover belonged to a rideshare driver who enjoyed cologne baths. But engineers trust numbers, and the numbers were stacking against hope. So I did what any stubbornly rational mind does when emotion clouds the lens. I gathered data. Wednesday at lunch, I slipped out of the office and drove to Caprock Bank, the branch where our joint account lived. I'd practiced a polite request in my head, but by the time I reached the teller, my voice sounded like sandpaper. Could I get printed statements from April through September? Every debit, every credit, every e-transfer. The teller tapped keys while my heart auditioned for a drum solo. When she returned, the stack of sheets looked harmless, just paper, but the weight felt volcanic. In the car, I opened the envelope and skimmed line after line. Chroma Bistro, $237, Gala Suites, $1,580, Lux Indigo Spa, $640, Aspen Ridge Lodge, $8,091. My pen traced circles around any reference labeled RYLAN Fire Consulting Adjust. Apparently, Jessa's boss had a knack for expensing romance. Quick check-in. Have you ever discovered a credit card line that made your stomach drop? What did you do next? Confront or investigate? Drop your story below. Somebody scrolling the comments tonight might need to hear it. That evening, instead of Netflix, I opened Google Sheets and played forensic accountant. I color-coded columns, green for my deposits, yellow for normal household spending, blood red for everything suspicious. By midnight, the sheet looked like a battlefield, red dominated. Total damages, $28,714.63 in 6 months, not counting 3 maxed personal cards I'd spotted in the online portal. My throat tightened. 28 grand could have refinished the deck, covered another round of IVF, or, simpler, bought peace of mind for a decade. At 1 a.m., I closed my laptop and stared at the blank wall. A choice edged into focus. Confront now and risk a sob-soaked apology tour, or step back, collect more truth, and design a response so airtight even grief couldn't poke holes in it. The second option felt colder and safer. Thursday, I cashed in a personal day and camped at Maple Grind Cafe with my phone, my spreadsheet, and a refillable mug. I pulled Jessa's call logs from our wireless account, 67 calls to the same number in 4 weeks, most conveniently around lunch breaks. Every time the bell over the cafe door chimed, adrenaline punched me, but it was never her. Only caffeine-hungry strangers and quiet indie guitar on the speakers. At noon, Miles texted, "Dragons tonight, got beer." I answered, "Can't, research." He replied a skull emoji. Miles once told me emojis are the grown man permissible way to hug your buddy. I felt that hug and breathed easier. By late afternoon, I'd uncovered a personal loan Jessa had taken online. $15,000 wired straight to her checking, collateralized by a lien against the house. My house. our house, but judging by her withdrawals, she considered it an ATM strapped to a concrete foundation. If you're watching and you own property with someone, do yourself a favor. Set up alerts with the county clerk. Trust me. Dinner that night was leftover pizza and anxiety. I had photos spread across the kitchen table, screenshots, bank printouts, a blurry shot our neighbor Steve sent of Jessa hopping into the white Range Rover Wednesday at 10 a.m. Office hours, my foot. I felt like an amateur detective in a noir film, minus the fedora. The deeper I dug, the less I recognized the woman whose handwriting still labeled our spice jars. Lesson right here before I forget. People don't flip a switch and betray you. They dimmer dial the lights until you're squinting at darkness, wondering when night fell. If any light bulbs flickering in your world, pay attention. Friday morning came with frost on the lawn. Jessa bounced into the kitchen in new leather boots, humming something that might have been trendier than the radio I usually played. "Big day," she chirped. "I'll be late, team dinner." "What restaurant?" I asked, casual as weather talk. She blinked one beat too long. La Meridian downtown." My gut twisted. La Meridian had closed 2 months ago for remodeling, another data point. After she left, I drove to Oak and Finch Law Group, a brick building that smelled of fresh upholstery and quiet ruthlessness. My appointment was with Trina Havorson, a divorce attorney recommended by Miles's cousin, the CrossFit casualty. Trina had a smile like a librarian, but eyes like a hawk. I slid the folder across her desk. "I'm not filing today," I said, "but I need to know my options." She sifted through the evidence slowly, nodding. "Adultery plus financial misconduct," she summarized. "Colorado's no fault, but judges frown on hidden debt. With proper documentation, you can shield your assets. Timing is everything, Mr. Reese." "Call me Damon." My voice cracked. She didn't flinch. "All right, Damon. Do you have a place to stay if separation moves quickly?" "Working on it." "Start liquidating half your joint liquidity, your share, precisely calculated, nothing more. Courts respect restraint. Then freeze what remains. Also, change your payroll direct deposit to a new account. And critical, don't tip your hand until your ducks are rowed." I inhaled, exhaled, ducks, row, got it. That night I walked the quiet streets of our neighborhood, yellow leaves spinning under street lamps. For 12 years, those trees had watched us host barbecues, carve pumpkins, DIY winter lights. Now they watched me plot an exit from the life built beneath their branches. The irony tasted metallic. Saturday morning, Jessa announced she was off to bridal brunch planning, a phrase so random I almost laughed. She left lipstick on my cheek, a token of normalcy she must have figured still bought goodwill. The door closed, and I bolted upstairs to her home office. My hands trembled unlocking her desk drawer. She never believed in real locks, too corporate. Inside, a floral box stuffed with statements. 3 credit card bills addressed only to her, balances north of 10 grand each. One envelope flapped open. Inside, a glossy brochure for Sol Del Mar Resort, Cabo San Lucas, reservation under Jessa Hayward plus guest, dates matching her upcoming leadership retreat. The guest name section read simply, "Documenting felt like surgery, gloves off, cut clean, stitch quick. Click flash phone camera captured every page." In the middle of the pile was a gratitude journal. Oh, the irony. The last entry read, "Note to self, freedom is priceless. Don't let Damon guilt me." Priceless freedom financed on a 24.9% APR card. I closed the journal gently. Spite wouldn't solve anything. Evidence, yes. Anger, later. Around noon, I drove to Summit Self-Storage and rented a 5x7 unit, month-to-month, climate-controlled. On the form under Contents, I wrote documents and personal items. The clerk barely looked up. Back home, the cat lounged on the deck rail, sunning himself like royalty. I scratched behind his ears and whispered, "Things are gonna get weird, buddy. Find another house if the kibble stops." He blinked. Cats excel at indifference. Evening fell. Jessa texted, "Running late, don't wait up Red Heart." No need, I thought. Instead, I brewed coffee and opened a password-protected Excel. Cell by cell, I mapped Phase 1. Move paycheck to new solo account Monday. Schedule video consultation with Trina. Collect witness statements from Steve and Miles. Order credit report lock Sunday night. Contact utility companies to split or freeze accounts. Research furnished rentals near downtown office. A knock startled me. Steve stood on the porch, hands shoved in hoodie pockets. "Saw her again," he said quietly. "Same white Rover about 3 this afternoon." He hesitated. "You okay, man?" Working on it. If you need photos, timestamps, I got you. Thanks, my throat thickened. In movies, neighbors bring casseroles. In real life, they bring proof. I never realized which I'd prefer. As Sunday dawned, I discovered the Range Rover detail might solve itself. A news alert pinged my phone. Minor crash on I-70 delays traffic. No injuries, 2 vehicles including a white Land Rover. Minutes later, Jessa called, voice frantic. Can you come pick me up downtown? Rylan's car got sideswiped. He's dealing with cops. 2 things struck me. 1, she used his first name freely now. 2, she expected me to rescue her from the chaos birthed by her affair. I'm in the middle of paperwork, I said evenly. Try rideshare. She sputtered, paperwork? On a Sunday, about what? House projects, you know, boring spreadsheets. Silence, then a clipped, fine, I'll figure it out. I hung up and exhaled. The emotional umbilical cord, her assumption I'd always bail her out, had been cut. I felt the severance deep in my chest, half relief, half sorrow. By late afternoon, she was home, limping on stilettos, clutching shopping bags. A faint bruise colored her forearm, likely from bracing in the car. My instinct screamed to rush over, inspect, care. Instead, I kept distance. Kindness now could be misread as surrender. Everything all right? I asked from the hallway. I'm fine, she snapped. You didn't answer my texts. I did, I said I was busy. With what? I met her gaze, let the silence stretch. She broke first, stomping upstairs, door slam. That night, I e-signed the lease for a furnished 1-bed on the 20th floor of Ridgeview Lofts. Polished concrete floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the mountains we once climbed together. The landlord asked if I preferred a 6 or 12-month term. I chose 6. Hope may be naive, but flexibility is. Before sleep, I opened Jessa's closet. Designer dresses, a half-dozen shoeboxes, 3 handbags still tagged. I imagined the visa statements and wondered how much of the spree was to impress Rylan, how much to convince herself she was new and unbreakable. A pang of empathy surprised me. Self-reinvention is intoxicating until the bill arrives. But empathy isn't an open bar. My limit had been reached. At 3 a.m., a sound woke me, Jessa sobbing in the bathroom. For a second, my feet moved toward the door on pure reflex. Then I stopped. She had chosen secrecy over partnership. My comfort wasn't hers to summon at 3 a.m. any longer. I slipped in earplugs and stared at the ceiling, counting the seconds until dawn. Monday overflowed with logistics. HR form to redirect my salary, bank visit to open a high-yield savings account under my name only, call to my sister Ray to update life insurance beneficiaries. Ray sensed the tremor in my voice. Whatever happens, she said, remember you're still the kid who designed Lego bridges strong enough to stand on. You'll rebuild. I pinched the bridge of my nose, grateful. After work, I picked up a prepaid SIM, activated a new number, and texted Trina from it. Use this for sensitive comms. She replied instantly. Copy. Discovery packet nearly ready. Need your final go-ahead. My thumb hovered. Final meant irreversible. I typed. Waiting until she leaves for Cabo, 10 days. If you're nodding along thinking, I'd have confronted her ages ago. I get it. Fire is tempting. But sometimes water, cold, steady, relentless, does more damage. Comment below, which approach would you take, fire or water? By midweek, I'd memorized the plan like bridge specs. Still, guilt flickered. Were stealth and spreadsheets any nobler than her lies? I wrestled with that one evening as I watched sunset smear coral across the Dalton sky. Then my phone vibrated. Charge alert, $2,680 at Pinnacle Peaks Resort. Not Cabo yet, this was a warm-up. Every pang of guilt evaporated. She doubled down. Thursday at dinner, I tried one final olive branch. We've been off lately, I began, voice soft. Maybe counseling. She laughed, short and bright. Therapy is for people planning to stay together, Damon. Knife meet heart. Is that where we are? She slid shrimp onto her fork, didn't look up. I need freedom, you'll never understand. Right there, something inside me clicked from rescue mode to containment mode. The interview was over. Forensic cleanup would follow. That night, I opened a fresh note. Operation Independence, execute. Beneath it, Bullet 1 read, collect a final week of evidence without suspicion. Bullet 2, move essentials to storage Saturday. Bullet 3, act normal. Acting normal felt like wearing a mask molded from my own skin, convincing yet suffocating. Friday morning, I kissed her cheek. She smelled like a new perfume, orange blossom overlaying cigarette smoke. She smirked, trying spontaneity now. Maybe I'm learning, I said. She had no idea how true that was. I watched her drive away, Range Rover already idling at the curb. She blew a kiss through the window and disappeared. In that lingering exhaust cloud, I felt the strangest thing, peace. Because finally, data had clarified emotion. Betrayal wasn't an abstract fear. It was a column of red numbers, a sequence of night calls, a passport stamp booked under false pretenses. And math, at least, I could solve. I closed the front door, locked it, and pressed my back to the wood. The house was silent except for my pulse in my ears. 10 days until Cabo. 10 days before the bridge collapsed, not from neglect, but by deliberate demolition. And if you've ever stood with the detonator of your own life in hand, you know the mix of terror and liberation that hums through the wires. Before heading to storage, I fed the cat and scratched his head. "Brace yourself, buddy," I whispered. "Next week, everything changes." He purred, oblivious, trusting the hand that fed him. In that moment, I understood trust's simplicity and its peril more than ever. Remember lesson number 3, friends. When someone rewrites the rules without telling you, playing fair just means you never see the checkmate coming. Don't fear gathering the truth. Fear pretending the lie is safer. I grabbed a cardboard box, started with the framed wedding photo above the mantel, and slid it carefully into the bottom. Glass facing upward, still intact, for now. The 10 days before Jessa's leadership retreat felt like waiting at the top of a roller coaster climb. Click, 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 each day another ratchet toward the plunge. I kept my smile steady, brewed our coffee, asked polite questions about her travel agenda. She mistook the calm for surrender. I mistook her rehearsed answers for further proof I was doing the right thing. If you've ever worn a mask long enough that it molded to your face, you'll know the mix of dread and relief when you're finally allowed to peel it off. Night after night, I refined Operation Independence. I double-checked my spreadsheet, confirmed the locksmith scheduled movers for 8 a.m. Saturday, contacted utility companies to switch every account solely to her name effective Friday noon. Keystrokes turned to muscle memory, routing numbers, passwords, policy updates, cancellation notices. I recorded every call and saved every confirmation email. My plan had to be precise, no scorched earth, just clean lines that courts respect. Lesson in all this: good boundaries feel surgical, not explosive. The aim isn't to punish, it's to stop the bleeding. 3 days out, a final ping from the joint card hit my phone, $740 at La Vie en Noir boutique for resort wear. Jessa strutted in that night with a white linen jumpsuit, modeling it like a runway star. I complimented her. Why spend emotional currency on a fight scheduled to end itself? She kissed my cheek, humming about sun-drenched cabanas. I nodded, checked the time, and silently moved the freeze joint credit line task from Saturday to Thursday. Adjust, recalc, proceed. On Thursday morning, I slipped my resignation letter, 2 concise paragraphs, into an envelope addressed to HR. Not because I'd been pushed out, but because a competing firm across town had offered a 30% salary bump and the chance to lead a project designing a new suspension bridge. Fresh start in every sense. I timed the email to send Monday at 9 a.m., right when Jessa should be landing in Cabo. Ever planned a life pivot to the hour? Share if you've done something similar. Your story could give someone courage. Friday dawned crisp and pink. Jessa's suitcase wheeled across hardwood with musical clicks. I carried it to the rideshare. No Range Rover today. Maybe Rylan wanted to avoid airport cameras. She hugged me fast, almost perfunctory. "See you Monday night. Don't work too hard on your spreadsheets," she teased, tapping my chest. I laughed softly and watched her drive away, her silhouette bright against the backseat window. The second the car disappeared, I exhaled a sound like a punctured tire. The countdown started, 72 hours. 07:15 a.m., solo coffee gulped. 07:30 text to Trina, green light, she's airborne. 07:45 bank. The teller notarized transfer forms I'd pre-filled. Exactly 50% of remaining cash minus 28,714.63 she'd siphoned moved to my new account. I left her side untouched, but the joint account went into freeze status, withdraw only in person with dual signatures, essentially useless. 0900 credit card companies. Removal, closure, fraud flags, 30 minutes per call, polite and lethal. 1100 courthouse drop box. Trina's paralegal and I slid the divorce petition, grounds, adultery and financial misconduct into the stamped slot. Filing timestamp, 1102. 11:15. Email to county recorder placing a temporary hold on any future liens against the property pending legal proceedings. Noon, utilities. I kept electric and water live through Monday midnight, enough runway for her to read the paperwork, but cables, streaming, and Wi-Fi transferred instantly. 12:45, lunch was a protein bar devoured while loading my truck. I'd spent evenings boxing my share, college textbooks, family photos, guitar, hiking gear, a single suitcase of clothes. Anything acquired jointly but bought with my salary, TV, washer, my grandmother's oak desk, got photo documented and left in place. Courts love restraint. 14:00, movers arrived, 2 guys in blue shirts jogging boxes to the truck. I labeled each. DR they asked no questions, tips by silence. 15:30, Unit 2007, Ridgeview Lofts. I unlocked the door, light flooded the minimalist space. Mountains framed the western window like a painting. No time for awe, we hauled boxes in, stacked, thanked the crew, signed the receipt. 16:15, back at the house. The locksmith's van idled. We swapped deadbolts, repinned cylinders. New keys, one for me, 2 spares delivered to Trina's office in a sealed envelope labeled for Mrs. Hayward upon identification. Professional detachment felt strangely merciful. 17:00, cat food restocked. The neighbor agreed to adopt Mr. Whiskers. I wrote a note. He prefers salmon kibble, hates storms. Small kindnesses cost nothing. 18:00, final sweep. The house sounded hollow, my footsteps echoing. I left a letter on the kitchen island beside the vase she loved. Jessa, the locks have changed for legal reasons. Your new keys and full explanation await you at Attorney Trina Havorson's office. Monday, 10 a.m. Please read everything carefully before contacting me. There is no emergency. Utilities remain active through midnight Monday. You have my email for essential items only. Damon, straight facts, no venom. Out the door at 18:10. I didn't look back. Rearview mirrors exist for a reason. That night in the loft, cardboard towers surrounded me. City lights twinkled. I should have felt victorious, but mostly I felt silence, the first honest quiet in months. I ordered cheap Thai, ate cross-legged on the floor, and let grief run its course, a necessary purge before dawn. Saturday morning I woke at 5, instinctively waiting for Jessa's alarm, then laughed at myself. Coffee in hand, I stood barefoot by the window as the sun ignited the peaks. I realized I'd never watched sunrise alone without mentally including her. Every dawn had been ours. Now it was simply mine, and that was okay. At 9 a.m. I met Susan, yes, Rylan's wife, in a cafe downtown. She looked composed, professional blazer hiding what had to be raw anger. I slid a folder toward her, photos, statements, timelines. She slid me a duplicate corporate expense fraud misused company AMX, explicit text sent on Rylan's work phone, mutual exchange of leverage. Our attorneys file Monday, she said. We shook hands, allies by circumstance. Betrayal can build strange bridges. Lesson check, honesty might bruise, deceit amputates. If you think the truth will destroy what you have, imagine what the lie will do when it sprouts legs. Mid-afternoon, I drove to my sister Ray's. She hugged me hard, offered lasagna, and insisted I sleep. I declined, too wired. On her porch, we watched squirrels raid the bird feeder. She said, "No matter how this ends, remember you kept your integrity intact." I realized that was the core of my plan, exit with dignity. Money can regenerate, self-respect not so easily. That night, a voicemail landed from an unknown Mexican number, Jessa's voice over resort music. "Miss you, babe," she slurred. "The moon here's insane. We should come back together." I stared at the phone. She still believed we were salvageable even as she toasted the affair. I deleted the message. Not my moon, not my problem. Sunday blurred, a grocery run, unboxing plates, assembling an IKEA bookshelf while indie rock played. Ordinary tasks felt like reclaiming territory inside my skull. I almost texted Miles an invite, but solitude felt medicinal. I needed to hear my own breathing, confirm I was still there. Late afternoon, I drove past the old house once, pure curiosity. Curtains drawn, driveway empty, autumn leaves clogging the gutter. For 12 years, I'd raked that gutter every Sunday. Now someone else's chore. The cat lounged on Steve's porch rail already, good. Some ties sever easier than others. Sunday evening at 9 p.m. sharp, I emailed HR. Resignation effective in 2 weeks, vacation days covering the notice. Then I opened a blank message to Jessa, addressed but not sent. If you've ever drafted words you know will never leave your outbox, you'll understand the cathartic burn that followed. I deleted the draft. Monday arrived bright and cold. At 8 a.m. my phone buzzed, bank alert, joint account attempts flagged. Another, credit card declined. Another utility deposit required. By 9:30, a frantic text. Damon, why are our cards frozen? The hotel wants a different payment method. I didn't reply. Silence can be louder than any accusation. At 10:07, Trina texted. Client served, she's aware. I pictured Jessa, travel-weary, tracking sand through the law office, reading words that undid 12 years in 15 pages. I felt no triumph, just gravity. 11 a.m. Call from my new employer's HR confirming paperwork. New chapter loading. Noon, another volley of texts. What have you done? The locks are changed. I can't pay the Uber. My phone lit like a slot machine. I muted it, walked to a nearby trailhead, and hiked until sweat cleansed adrenaline. On a ridge overlooking the city, I asked the question I've asked you twice already. Would fire have been faster? Maybe. But water carved the canyon behind me, slow and unstoppable. As dusk folded in, one final text buzzed through. Why, I thought you loved me. I typed, erased, typed again. Finally, I did enough to save us once. Now I love myself enough to let us go. I hit send, blocked the number, and sat on the floor of my new living room while the city hummed beyond glass. For the first time in a year, my lungs felt full. Reflection for you before we part until next time. Whose life raft are you silently patching while yours takes on water? When is it okay to say, swim on your own? Think about it. Share if you're brave. Someone reading might need that permission slip. As night deepened, I looked around the half-unpacked space, boxes stacked like promise, and realized independence isn't a tattoo or a beachside fling. It's the unglamorous courage to dismantle a broken structure and pour fresh footings, one deliberate brick at a time. 3 mornings after the papers were served, I woke before dawn and realized I hadn't checked my phone once in the night. No alerts, no dread-scrolling bank apps, no pulse-spiking voicemails. Just silence and the soft whoosh of wind around the 20th floor balcony. I brewed coffee, my mug only, and watched sunrise drape the peaks in molten gold. For the first time in months, the caffeine tasted like possibility instead of fuel for crisis control. The fallout came fast. Trina forwarded me Jessa's frantic emails to her office. The mortgage company demanded proof of future payments, the boutique cards were frozen, and her agency's HR scheduled an ethics review. After Susan's attorneys forwarded expense reports tied to Rylan. Pieces of her new life were dropping away like stage props when the play ends and crew strikes the set. I felt an echo of grief, how easily one bad storyline can ruin good chapters, then reminded myself I hadn't written her script, just stepped out of it. Day 5, Miles showed up with a plastic bin labeled Kitchen, Damon. Inside sat my cast-iron skillet, the espresso maker, and the chipped ceramic bowl we bought at that art fair our first year married. He set it on my counter, shrugged. Figured you'd miss real pancakes. Then he handed me a Colorado Trail map, all 50 pages highlighted. Time to widen your weekends, he said. Friendship is funny. Sometimes it hands you a skillet, sometimes a life itinerary. While Jessa scrambled, I eased into new routines. I biked to my new office. Sleek glass, open ceilings, the hum of engineers sketching the city's next landmark bridge. The team treated me like I'd been there for years, and the project lead, Deirdre, respected that I left on the dot at 5 to reclaim my evenings. I joined a Wednesday climbing class, chalk, rope burn, shaky calves, and on the second week I paired with Lisa, a nurse who laughed when I mistied my figure-8 knot and retaught me without condescension. We swapped numbers after the climb, promising to conquer an outdoor pitch once snow melted. Reflection break for you watching. When a chapter of your life closes, do you jump straight into the next adventure or take a breather? Share where you land on that spectrum. Someone sifting the comments might need your blueprint. 2 weeks later, Trina texted. Court-approved temporary orders. House in her sole possession pending refinance she must secure within 90 days. Translation. If Jessa couldn't clean up the mortgage mess she'd created, the bank would collect. I emailed the notice to her last known address, her parents' bungalow in Brookdale, then stepped away from my computer and laced up running shoes. Worrying about an outcome I couldn't control felt like paying rent on a building I didn't live in anymore. Months flowed by in seasons rather than crises. Winter brought powdered days. Miles convinced me to dust off my old snowboard and faceplint down Bluebird Run until muscle memory returned. Spring meant sunset belays with Lisa on granite slabs above the valley. Halfway up our first outdoor climb, she called down, "Trust the friction." And I laughed because that sounded exactly like a life mantra disguised as a gear tip. Somewhere between blizzards and budding aspens, the divorce became final. Trina's email subject line, decree signed, landed in my inbox with less fanfare than a shipping notice. Inside, the settlement was as we drafted. Each kept individual retirement funds. I retained everything I'd moved to the loft. She kept the house and her debts. No alimony either direction. Trina added a single line, "You ran a masterclass in proportional response." I stared at the phrase. It felt like a commendation, but also a cautionary plaque. Revenge unchecked can destroy the builder too. Proportional response. I repeated it until it sounded less like law school jargon and more like a North Star. Around that same time, the Crestview hiking group organized a Saturday coffee meetup before a dawn trail. I ducked into the cafe for a pre-hike espresso and almost walked right past Jessa before recognition hit. She wore a black server's apron, hair pulled into a low ponytail, that free spirit tattoo half hidden by a faded neckline. The designer aura was gone. In its place was something raw, maybe real. She looked up, tray in hand, and froze. "Damon." I nodded, suddenly aware of every curious eye in the shop. "Morning, Jessa." Her voice wavered. "Can we talk after my shift? 10 minutes. I glanced at my group in the corner, then back at her. "Sure, trail starts at 7, so make it quick." 2 hours later, she slid into the chair across from me, fingers wrapped around a chipped mug of drip coffee. No oat milk foam art, no artisanal sweetener. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Customers buzzed around, milk steam hissed, life moved on unbothered. She swallowed. "I know I have no right to ask, but thank you for handling everything the way you did. I deserved a firestorm." "You got paperwork and boundaries," I said, meeting her eyes. "Firestorms are expensive, and I'm already paying an attorney." A rueful smile tugged at her mouth. "Fair," she looked down. "I lost my job. The expense scandal dragged the agency's name into court filings, and they culled anyone tied to it." "I heard," I replied. Susan kept me updated. Her corporate board ousted Rylan, and a civil suit over misused funds was underway. Jessa's name appeared on a few invoices. Guilt by association can be swift. She traced the mug rim. "I'm living with my parents, working double shifts here and bartending nights. Credit scores shot. The house, well, you know." "I know." Silence again, then she said, "I replay the night I got that tattoo, like maybe if I'd walked past the shop my life would be different." I shook my head. The ink was a symptom, not the illness. Tears pooled but didn't fall. "I'm sorry, for the lies, the insults, the money, all of it." I believed her. Remorse doesn't erase deeds, but it felt genuine. Forgiveness, though, that was another branch on the decision tree. Viewer checkpoint. What does forgiveness mean to you? Does it demand reconciliation, or can it live independently? Drop a thought. This community thrives on nuance. "I don't hate you," I said, "but I can't fix what broke inside you. That's your climb." She nodded, wiping under her eyes. "I'm in therapy. My parents insisted. Turns out when you bulldoze your life searching for freedom, you sometimes just uncover buried stuff you never handled. That buried stuff tends to run the show whether you invite it or not," I said, surprising myself with the calmness. Months ago, I'd envisioned this meeting dripping with vindication. Instead, I felt like a bystander observing a controlled burn that prevented a wildfire. She tucked stray hair behind her ear. "Do you think I'll ever outrun the mess I made?" "No one outruns a mess," I answered. "You clean it bit by bit until one day you look up and realize it's behind you." A thin breath left her lungs. "You always did speak in construction metaphors." "Occupational hazard." She smiled faintly. "How's life over the river?" I considered the montage. New office, sunrise coffees, knee-shaking climbs, Lisa's laugh when we nearly lost a whole bag in the creek, late-night guitar chords echoing in my loft. "Solid foundations, flexible beams," I said. "Design is sound." Our time was up. My group stood by the door lacing boots. I rose. "Take care, Jessa." "Damon," she called as I turned, "one more thing. Thank you for not torching me in court. You gave me a chance whether you meant to or not." "I meant to," I said. "I just didn't mean it for you alone. It was for me too. Staying cruel would have kept me tied to the past." Outside the cafe, crisp spring air filled my lungs. Lisa waved from the trailhead parking lot. We set off up the dirt path, conversation ping-ponging between weekend plans and the ridiculousness of squirrels stealing trail mix. At the overlook, wind whipped our jackets and the city shimmered below like a circuit board. I told her the meetup story. She listened, then asked, "You good?" "Yeah," I said. "I finally believe the crisis is done. Everything past this point is design build." She grinned. "Then let's design something fun. Alpine Lake next weekend." Absolutely. As we descended, my thoughts wandered to the concept of independence. Jessa chased it like a neon sign promising instant liberation. Tattoo it, buy it, sleep beside it, charge it to platinum plastic. It cost her everything. I found mine quietly by drawing lines so clear even heartbreak had to respect them. Friendly reminder to whoever needs it right now. Real freedom doesn't arrive when someone hands you keys to a new life. It starts when you take back the keys you kept giving away. Back at the trailhead, Miles clapped my shoulder and teased me for packing too many protein bars. I laughed, tossed him the extra, and felt the hillside echo the sound. No guilt attached, no weight in my chest. Just space, and the curiosity of what could grow there next. Weeks rolled forward. The agency's court case settled, the house went to auction, and a studio band downtown rented it to produce indie albums. I sold the last of my stake for enough to seed a down payment someday, no rush. On warm evenings, I'd strum guitar on the balcony while city lights blinked awake, thinking about all the bridges I'd inspected for hairline cracks. Some survived because engineers noticed early, some collapsed because no one listened to the groan of strained steel. In love, as in architecture, vigilance matters. If your intuition's tugging at a thread in your life, ask yourself, is this a loose string that needs trimming or the unraveling of a hidden seam? Drop a comment. Your question might mirror someone else's unspoken doubt. Last Friday, Lisa and I summited Eagle Point at sunrise. Cloud inversions pooled below us like milk in a bowl, and we both went quiet. When the sun's first flare broke the sea of white, she whispered, "Worth every blister." I nodded, thinking of spreadsheets, frantic texts, lawyer jargon, and how all of it led here, toes on cold granite, heart steady. Worth every blister indeed. On the drive home, she drifted asleep, head against the passenger window. The road unspooled, pine trees flashed by, and a line from my old professor floated back. A bridge's elegance isn't in its length, but in how gracefully it bears weight. I glanced at the woman beside me, at the mountains receding in the mirror, and realized I had finally become my own bridge, designed to flex, engineered to last, strong enough to carry new journeys without cracking. I hope you carry that image into whatever decision has your stomach tied in knots tonight. Build something that can hold you first. Invite others across only when the structure sings under load. And if you forget every detail of my story, remember this: boundaries are not barriers, they're load limits. Respect yours, and the people who deserve to walk beside you will respect them too. Now, if you made it this far, let me know, what's one boundary you're committed to reinforcing this year? Share in the comments. Someone out there needs the blueprint you're brave enough to draw. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and trust the architecture of your own worth.